Um, um, Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. A quick storytelling about something that matters to me the most. I've got a lot of these stories because these stories they make who I am. They have contributed to who I am today. So today I would like to share a story that is also shared in my book, Journey to My Destiny. In that book, there's a chapter which talks about when church hurts. To those that know me, I've been in church for almost all my life, 80% of my life, to an extent that I know the ins, I know the outs of being in a church, because that's basically my life. I don't know any other life. You ask me about the parties, I don't know. Even when I dance, I take it from the children. I've never been to the parties. When I grew up in rural areas, people used to say when they go to what we used to call a disco, I don't know these days, maybe it's what it's called, a club. People used to say at night they would wear white clothes. So there are lights, the different lights that used to go with the music. I assume I've not been there. That is in my imagination. So they would say those lights will make you beautiful, and they would make you more beautiful if you are wearing white clothes. It's the hearsay. I don't know. So I would like to share this story. I laugh at it today, but it was not a laughing matter that time. It was serious. So I used to go to this church. I won't tell where it was for their protection, because I'm not interested in them, but I'm interested in telling my story. So this church was too holy. We were told not to wear earrings, not to wear this. They call this rouge. I don't know why they call it rouge. I call it lipstick. I don't know where this word rouge comes from, but they call it rouge. You can't do makeup because it's ungodly. It's the worldly thing. So even the talk there would be, don't be like the world. Don't do 1, 2, 3, 4. As if you belong to the world. So I don't know who belongs to the world up until today. I've read so many books, I've studied many things, but I don't know what it means to belong to the world. So as I was there, I remember how I went there. So it was an experience that I had to go through, I believe, because I followed someone who was carrying a Bible, because I always was thirsty for God. I was still young, very young. I think I was 19 years old. More than being 19 years, I was a troubled soul. That time my life was all over the place, and all I wanted was answers from God, because I remember how I used to find a place where I would cry alone and ask God what was happening in my life that time. So I would call it a wilderness experience. I was in a wilderness experience, so I took God seriously. So as I followed that man because he carried a Bible, what happened was I arrived in his church and people were praying. I just joined and I prayed because that's what I wanted to do. I was thirsty for God. Then after that, the man who's supposed to be a leader, I'll call it their leader, because he didn't go to a theology school to study theology, but he's their leader. Maybe pastor, because there are some pastors who are pastors by calling who didn't go to a Bible school. I don't know, but I refuse to be a pastor like that. I just want to go to Bible school because that's my opinion. I don't say they are wrong, but that's my opinion. There are things you learn in the Bible school, that things that you do not learn if you are just ordained because you are holy. That's just my opinion. I might be wrong. So this is my story, so I'll tell it according to my beliefs and opinions. I believe that the Bible school empowers you more as someone who will lead people, as someone who will be attending to marriage problems, as someone who will be attending to teenage pregnancies in church, because there are teenage pregnancies that happen in church. Fine, I'm not them. So I joined them. They were doing what I wanted that time. So the royal leader came and told me a prophecy that he saw me 3 days before I came there, and God said I shouldn't wear these earrings, they are not my type, I shouldn't do this, etc., etc. Up until today, I'm not sure if God said that, because there were things that were said in the future which they said God said them, which were not true. Maybe this one was true, I don't know, because there was no confirmation. So with me, I'm a very prayerful person, and I had a deal with God that, Lord, nobody must come to me and tell me something about me that you haven't told me. You must hint me before, then I become disobedient, then you can let another person to come and tell me, but I should be hindered. It must be a confirmation. And in most of the things I have received things like confirmations on the things. It's the things that I know that people tell me, and I would say I know them, but my experiences with this church made me not to trust prophecies and not to like them. So I continued now fellowshipping with these people. I'm not gonna lie, it was nice because we spent time praying and singing and worshiping, which was what I wanted that time. But there was something that used to hurt me, because I've always been a woman activist from a young age, because I vowed that since my mother was the victim of abuse, domestic violence, gender-based violence, you name them all, I knew that I will never be that. So I was it even before I got educated and specialized. I used to fight it. So what happened in this church, I hated it too much, because the leader or a man would stand up and say, God says women have lust, and my inquiring mind would say, why would God say women have lust whereas there are men here? Does that mean men are holy and women are unholy here? They have come for sex, something like that. And one other thing that was said was, I remember how we were reprimanded. It was so cold and we were wearing dukes. We wear dukes when it's cold. We would wear dukes in our heads. But this time around, the leader stood up and reprimanded us and said we were wearing dukes because we were practicing to be wives of the men there, so we wanted them. So there was this insinuation that women are promiscuous, they are that one man, and men are holy, which didn't sit nicely with me. So in this case, I remember one day the church went to another province in the Eastern Cape. So we were in the Western Cape. They went to another province to have a conference. Let's call it a conference. I was left behind because I was working, which is fine. Unfortunately, a man who was my neighbor and a friend that time, and who also went to that church, was left behind with me. Not with me per se, but we were both left behind, while maybe the whole congregation left, which is not a problem, Moss. Let me clarify something about this man. He was my best friend. We were always walking together to church because we were neighbors. He might have liked me, but he never said it. Even when we were left behind, I didn't even think of contacting him, because that was not in my mind. I was going through some stuff in my life, and men were the last thing in my mind. So they left. I continued with my business the whole weekend. I assume the man continued with his business the whole weekend. But what happened was strange, because when they came back, the lady that stayed with me who left came back telling me lots of stories, lot of things that happened that didn't sit well with other people, because I was older than the young girls who were there, because I was 19, so those girls maybe were 14, so I thought I'm older than them. I called them and I tried to explain to them that don't do 1 2 3 4 in church, because it's taken as 1 2 3 4. I thought I was helping in my mind that time, but didn't know that that thing might be used against me as something, that can be twisted to be wrong. So what happened was that after that, okay, fine, now there was a prophetic message in church. After we sing and we worship, now there's a prophetic message. Now the prophetic message is saying, I must come and repent, and that brother must come and repent, and me, if you see, I've got big eyes, so my eyes pop out when they automatically pop out when you say something that shocks me. So I wanted to know, why must we repent? And they were saying because we committed sin, and I said, what sin? Because I did not commit any sin. I stubbornly sat in my chair and I didn't go, because I knew that my God would never say that, because it has never happened, and the same God is the God who talks to me. So what happened was, the brother, I think because of the fear of God, he went in front and he cried and he said God was right to say this because he was in love with me. The hell, he was in love with me and he doesn't tell me, and I have to hear it that time when his confession will create problems for me. Oh my word, I was so angry with him. I was so mad with him. I was so angry for putting me through that situation, but I didn't say anything. I don't remember going to repent, because I wasn't gonna go, because I didn't do what they were saying I've done. Even what he was saying, God might be sensing. God would be sensing his heart, not mine. But for me, all those actions were the actions of gender-based violence. It's this thing that in some churches, women are told to be submissive. In the first place, in that church, it was us women who had to wear long skirts, men telling us what to wear, what to do, which was part of gender-based violence, because I didn't go and repent. I was told that I was rebellious, I was proud, to an extent that I left that church, because that was part of me taking a stand against being abused as a woman in church. There are lots of stories that I will tell about how church hurts people, to an extent that it happened that this man, after I left, I think I went to university to study, he came and he really wanted to marry me, but I refused on the grounds that people would say that prophetic word that said ndiyajola, people would say yinyani, and I didn't do it. And Christians must stop doing this, accusing people because they have dirty mind and say you have done 1 2 3 4, because they are assuming it, because really I never did it, and I knew that my God, I speak to God too, I knew that my God would never say that. So but because they have dirty minds, they thought we did it because their minds were dirty already, because it were males also who were supporting this sister who was saying this prophetic word about us. And in that church there was teenage pregnancy that happened before. For me, the sad part was that it was both the man from that church and a woman from that church who fell into a sin, and then there was a child. So for me, it always was an issue of it takes two to tango. Why do they say it is a woman who has lust? Why do they say it is a woman who wants men? Why must it be the woman's fault? So I knew that I'm not gonna take it even in church, that I'm accused of the things that I don't know because I'm a woman. My mother was a victim of gender-based violence. My mother was a victim of abuse. of abuse. So I knew that I'm not gonna allow it. I'm gonna tell lots of stories of what happened to me in church. So I never married that man. Okay, I ended up hating him. A story for another day. But who could have done it when there was a false prophecy about us in the past, just because we were friends, just because people assumed that because we were left in Cape Town and people were in the Eastern Cape, we have done adultery or sex. I didn't do it, so I wasn't gonna allow it. Anyway, guys, I thought let me share this to you, just a storytelling, for today. When being in church hurts, I'm still in church, I still believe in God, but I will not be a victim of gender-based violence in church. I'm going to share a lot of stories of what I've seen happening in church, where women are abused, where some are pregnanted by the men in church, the pastors in church, and a person will choose to keep quiet because the man is either threatening her or because she's afraid that the man has fed her information that it is her fault. We're going to talk a lot about these stories, but I'll stop here today. God bless you. Bye.